As we're working our way in our broadcast through the book of Ephesians, chapter 4, we're looking at the put on principles found in verses 22 to 24, and how we are to put off the way we used to live, the mindset that we used to have, the culture we used to live in, and put on the new self that is being renewed according to the spirit of the mind. So those things we're looking at, Paul is now talking about the particulars. What does that look like in everyday life? And first of all, he dealt with the issue of falsehood, so speaking to one another in truth, verse 25. Then he looked at anger, a very common emotion and action in the part of all of us. We all deal with anger, some more seriously than others. But he's talked about that, verses 26 and 27, and we'll return to that at the end of the chapter. That is such an important issue. But in the meanwhile, he moves to number 3, and that is stealing. He says in verse 28, he who steals must steal no longer, but rather he must labor, performing with his own hands what is good, so that he will have something to share with one who has need. So first of all, we are to put off stealing, and we're to put on work. Let's start with put off stealing. Now, we all know that direct stealing is wrong. Shoplifting is wrong. Taking somebody's stuff that doesn't belong to us is wrong. We know that. But there's many forms of stealing. If we are employed by somebody and we're finding ourselves playing on our phone most of the day, or talking to other people, or not doing our job properly, we're stealing time from our employer. So that's a form of stealing. We can steal in just other ways from people in our lives, in the way we just do not give what we ought to give. That's a form of stealing. We can steal by not being honest with our taxes. We can steal by fudging wherever we can. We can steal by not being generous with somebody that we are who is waiting on us at a restaurant, and being stingy with them. There's lots of ways, in a sense, that we can steal. And he says, put that away. Don't do that any longer. And don't be one of these people that take advantage of other people just because they will give something to you, and you're not taking care of yourself. Instead, he says we must labor with our own hands. We should be looking at taking care of ourselves, being responsible for ourselves, to do that which is good. So first of all, instead of stealing, instead of taking from other people, we're responsible for ourselves, and we work. A very simple principle, isn't it? In truth, we've seen that in the book of Proverbs on Wednesday night, the importance that God places on work. Being diligent, good workers is something the Lord places a premium on. And he expects us as Christians to be good workers. We ought to be, as Christians, the best workers we possibly can be. But he goes on it's to do good at work, do good for others. But he goes on to say this, so that we'll have something to share with one who has need. So there are always around us people with needs. They might be in our church, our family, our friendships, wherever. There are people with needs. And right now, in the midst of the pandemic and so forth, there are some people losing work, losing their jobs. There are other people that are losing their businesses. They're struggling to pay their bills. So there's always people around us with needs, and we should keep our eyes open for opportunities. But he says our work, as we go to work, as we get a paycheck and so forth, the Lord gives us that not simply to take care of ourselves, which we should do, he says here, but also to help others in need, so that we can be generous with other people. We're looking for the opportunity to do that. I think of 1 Timothy chapter 6 in this regard. These cross-references are helpful in our study of the Bible. Verse 17 says this, instruct those who are rich in this present world. So if you have some money, he's talking to you, that they would not be conceited or fix their hope on the uncertainty of riches, but on God, who richly supplies us with all things to enjoy. Instruct them to do good, same idea, to be rich in good works, to be generous and ready to share, storing up for themselves the treasure of a good foundation for the future, so that they may take hold of that which is life indeed. And so we are going to be doing good with what the Lord has given us. And one of the ways we do good is by being generous with those who have a need. So don't just hold out and say, well, if they worked harder or did this or that, they would be able to take care of their own needs. If there's somebody with a genuine need that you can help with, the Lord has provided extra funds for you in many cases so that you can be generous, so that you can reach out to others. And so put off the idea of stinginess and put on the idea of generosity. That would be the principle that we lay before us today. We'll look at the next one tomorrow.